Shaykh bin Baaz was once asked about the books of Sayyid Qutb and Mawdudi and Nadawi and so on. And he said, yeah, there's good in them. And you should take the good in them. The first issue is here that many of the ulama al-kibar, like Shaykh bin Baaz, Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen, Shaykh al-Albani, even Shaykh Rabi', and Shaykh al-Fawzan and others, before the first, I'll tell you the moment it changed. You know, they call it the watershed moment. The watershed was the first Gulf War in 1989 and 1990. Before that time, there was a lot of husnul dhan from the ulama of Salafiyah towards people who were putting in effort. Why? Because that which was zahir from them was that they're putting in effort in the religion. You know, teaching the Quran, quoting hadith, and talking about keeping away from sins and fixing society and calling the people to pray. So they had a lot of husnul dhan without knowing, because there wasn't tatabbu'. Because it's not the habit of a Muslim to now look through every single article that someone else has written, every single book. So they never did that. They heard khair, Sayyid Qutb was executed in 1966. They said, Rahimahullah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive him. And he was killed by the Hukuma in Egypt and so on. So they had husnul dhan, even for Mawdudi. That's why they invited Mawdudi to Medina University to give a lecture at one stage. Because the ulama had good thoughts and did not have evil suspicions or bad suspicions towards them. Then things changed after the first Gulf War. How did it change? Because after the first Gulf War, this was of course Saddam Hussein's first invasion of Kuwait. So when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait with the Iraqi army, a lot of these people that were hidden from those who had been nurtured. Remember, our ulama are not nurtured upon the books of Sayyid Qutb. They're greater than Sayyid Qutb. You know, it's like, you know, they don't read the books of Sayyid Qutb. They just heard stories. Sayyid Qutb, he died. He was an activist in Egypt. Unko isko maar diya. You know, he was that kind of thing. So may Allah have mercy upon him, because we heard he did some good work. That was the general rule. So when the first Gulf War happens, those who had actually been nurtured and studying the books of Mawdudi, and studying the books of Sayyid Qutb, and studying under Muhammad Qutb, the younger brother of Sayyid Qutb, who was living in Saudi at the time, by the way. The younger brother of Sayyid Qutb was executed in 1966. Saudi Arabia at that time, because Egypt executed a handful of people, well, quite a large number of people, and imprisoned them. So Saudi said, listen, take them out of prison. They're our brothers, Musliman here. You know, because Egypt had a very pan-Arabian nationalistic government, right? Under, you know, initially Jamal Abdel Nasser, then it was Anwar Sadat and so on, and then Hosni Mubarak. So Saudi said in the late 60s, early 70s, inko jail se nikalein. Musliman hai, namazi hai. They said, no, we're not going to remove them. They said, remove them, we'll take them into Saudi. So what did Saudi do? Saudi opened the doors for their Muslim brothers. And this was Ikhwan al-Muslimin. So a lot of these people came into Saudi. So now they need jobs. Some of them are du'at. You know, they are callers, because they were from Ikhwan al-Muslimin in Egypt in the 1960s. So Saudi said, koi baat nahi. You become a mudarris here, this school, Madrasa Islamiyah, teach Quran, do this. And from them was Muhammad Qutb, the younger brother of Sayyid Qutb. So Saudi welcomed them. What these Ikhwan were doing in Saudi Arabia and in some of the other Gulf countries, that they were taking the shabab and they were nurturing them upon the teachings of Sayyid Qutb, which was revolutionary, revolting against the rulers, taking the kursi from those in charge, and developing this idea that you have to remove the rulers in the whole of the world and bring a new authority. It had no connection to the Aqidah, by the way. It had nothing to do with Tawheed and Aqidah. It was just an authority that they said, this is a religious, theocratic authority that we want to establish in the country. So Saudi, the government, They weren't paying attention. Up until the first Gulf War. The first Gulf War happens, and all of a sudden you get these students of knowledge who are now talking with the speech of Sayyid Qutb, talking about how the rulers are kuffar. And Saddam Hussein, like Abdurrahman the Khaliq and others, supporting the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. And they start speaking against Shaykh bin Baaz, the scholars, the Salafi scholars in Saudi Arabia. So all of a sudden these scholars are like, what's going on here? These are our Shabab, Saudis. And they're speaking about the authority in Saudi Arabia, this Muslim country. Ye kahan se aa raha hai? Where's this fikr coming from? So then the scholars, they start investigating. Before that, they had good thoughts. That's why you find all those statements about Jamaat al-Tabligh, Ikhwan al-Muslimin, Sayyid Qutb, Mawdudi. This is in the 80s, right up until the early 90s, up until a group of scholars started uncovering them. Who are those scholars? Muhammad Aman al-Jami, rahimahullah ta'ala, from the Mashayikh and from the greater scholars of this ummah, from the Shaykh. He was from the Shuyukh of Shaykh Rabi actually, and Shaykh al-Fawzan and others, Muhammad Aman Jami. And he was also from the close companions of Shaykh Rabi in Medina. So he starts speaking and he looks at what these people are doing. He said, where are you getting these ideas of khuruj and marching in the streets? Because Saudi Arabia had never seen marching in the streets, mudaharat. You see every week here. In Saudi, it's unheard of. All of a sudden, men, women, they're getting these fatwas. From who? From Saudi students of knowledge. Like Safr al-Hawali, Salman al-Awda, and these types of people. So now, Muhammad Aman Jami investigates. Shaykh Rabi is investigating. Shaykh Muqbil is investigating. Shaykh Ahmed al-Najmi is investigating. Even Shaykh al-Fawzan, al-Ajwibatul Mufida. You see all of those questions. We've got it. So this is now entering into 1992, 93, 94. Shaykh Rabi' used to say good things about Sayyid Qutb and about Mawdudi. Husnul dhan. We don't begin by saying, I don't know who he is, jo bhi hai ya bura hai. That's not our attitude. So the scholars, including Shaykh Al-Albani and others, then when they start investigating, they realize these people are reading the books of Mawdudi, Sayyid Qutb, that have been put into Arabic. Well, Sayyid Qutb, his books were in Arabic, like Ma'alim Fit Tariq, milestones. Tafsir, or it's not really a tafsir, but it is like Fi Dhalail al-Quran, which is a commentary on the Quran of Sayyid Qutb. When they investigate in these books, they're shocked. In Kitabul mein kya likha hua hai? The whole ummah is in a time of Jahiliyyah. Worse than the Jahiliyyatul Ula. This is ummah ghaiba. Ummat hai bhi nahi. Sayyid Qutb is saying this. Sayyid Qutb is saying the ruler is a kafir, and every mu'adhin and every imam who works under the ruler wo bhi kafir hai. Why? Because he's coming under the same taghut who is ruling over them. The ulama didn't know that these were in the books of Sayyid Qutb. Why? Because these ulama are teaching Wasatiyya, Ibn Taymiyyah. They are teaching Madarij al-Salikin of Ibn Qayyim. They are teaching Tafsir Ibn Kathir. They are teaching Kitab al-Tawheed. They are teaching the books of the A'imma, Usul al-Sunnah, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Al-Lalaka'i. They are teaching the books of the great scholars. Yes, Sayyid Qutb is just an author. So when they look into these books, they say, so where are they getting this from? Then they find these are their teachers, Muhammad Qutb. So one of the shaykhs of this movement, which is a Qutbi movement, was Safar al-Hawali. So Safar al-Hawali, Saudi, living in Mecca, professor or a doctor. He had a PhD in Aqidah. Who was his shaykh? Muhammad Qutb. Muhammad Qutb, son of younger brother of Sayyid Qutb. He writes a book, ظاهرات الإرجاء في فكر الإسلامي. The emergence of irja in Islamic thought. This book, the whole of the book is attacking the manhaj of the ulama like Al-Albani and bin Baaz and others. This is where it begins. Who wrote the introduction to the book? Muhammad Qutb. So the scholars now are joining the dots. So Shaykh Muhammad Aman Jami starts speaking. And he says, look at this, foreign ideologies that are against Islam. Sayyid Qutb, who says that Islam is just a concoction of Christianity and communism. That's what Islam is. If you look at Islam as an ideology, he says Islam as an ideology is just a perfection of communism and Christianity. The ulama say, ye kya hai? What kind of kufr statement is that? Then they look into Sayyid Qutb, and Sayyid Qutb starts attacking Uthman radiallahu anhu. He says Uthman was a bad leader and an example of a bad leader. So the ulama are saying, subhanallah, this is Sayyid Qutb. He's attacking Uthman. Why? Of leadership. He says Uthman took money from the Baytul Mal, embezzled funds, frauded funds from the Baytul Mal. Uthman put his relatives in charge. So he said, Sayyid Qutb said, we don't even consider the Khilafah of Uthman to be a Khilafah. Rather we say it is Abu Bakr and Umar and then Ali. Uthman, jaise, it didn't even exist. It is like a blip. He speaks about Musa alayhi salam. About Musa alayhi salam. That Musa is an example of an impetuous leader, impatient. Everywhere he goes, he just gets angry. Gussa aa jata isko. Ibn Uthaymeen said, Shaykh Abdul Aziz bin Baaz, he said, what is this? Ye mazakh bana raha. Because he was almost like joking, making fun of Musa alayhi salam. He said, look how he took the tablets that Allah gave him and he broke them. Usne tod diye. So Shaykh bin Baaz said, this is kufr, this is ridda. Ye kya? They didn't know this before that. When did it come out? After the first Gulf War, because these people saw an opportunity. Kuwait is getting dealt with, yani it's finished. We're going to start something in Saudi. So then they said, whoever does not judge by what Allah has revealed, then he's a kafir. Ye hukam sabhi kafir hai. Kyun? Because they don't judge by what Allah has revealed. Allah said in the Quran, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. So they said, dekhe, whoever does not judge by what Allah has revealed, they are the kafirun. Allah ne kaha, Quran mein, Surah Ma'idah mein. But there are 3 ayat in Surah Ma'idah. Whoever does not judge by what Allah has revealed, humul fasiqoon. Wo fasiq bhi ho sakta hai. And Abdullah ibn Abbas said, this is kufr dun kufr. Ye kufr nahi that takes you outside of Islam. But that's a different discussion. So all of this began to get exposed. So going back to your question, when it became exposed, Shaykh bin Baaz refuted Sayyid Qutb. Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen refuted Sayyid Qutb. Shaykh Rabi refuted Sayyid Qutb. Shaykh al-Fawzan refuted Sayyid Qutb. Shaykh al-Albani refuted Sayyid Qutb. Shaykh Ahmed al-Najmi refuted Sayyid Qutb. Shaykh Zayd al-Madkhali refuted Sayyid Qutb. Shaykh Muqbil refuted Sayyid Qutb. All of them refuted Sayyid Qutb and Mawdudi. Shaykh Rabi wrote books. Then the issue became clear. Ye jo aapke saath kar rahe, this is trickery. Because they're going back to before these ulama knew the haqa'iq and the realities of these jama'at. Same with Jama'at al-Tabligh. They did the same thing with Jama'at al-Tabligh. Because the scholars had good thoughts. Because Tablighi Nisab or Fadalul A'mal was not translated into Arabic at that time. Arabi mein nahi tha. It was translated into English, into Urdu, Hindi, Bengali, Bangladeshi, har zaban mein, Farsi, everything, but not into Arabic. Because if you translate into Arabic, Arabi dekhenge. The ulama bhi dekhenge, ye kitab to has all of these mawdu'at, fabricated hadith and lies upon Allah's name, and some bid'ah and kufr in there also. So they never translated it. So what were Jama'at al-Tabligh doing in the Arab countries? Riyadh al-Salihin. So they were going into Saudi in the masajid. Acha, hum India se aaye hain. What are you going to read? We're going to read Riyadh al-Salihin. So husnul dhan, chalo Riyadh al-Salihin padhe to padhe. up until they realized that when some of the ulama, like Imam al-Tuwajiri and other ulama, they started investigating Jamaat al-Tabligh, and they realized Jamaat al-Tabligh is just a Sufi group. Not as bad as the Brelvis. Brelvis, though, they went to even more ghulu. But they are Sufis. They don't believe in the ulu of Allah. They don't believe that Allah is above the seven heavens over the throne. They are Maturidis in Aqidah. This is completely against the madhab of Ahlul Hadith and Salafiyah. So, what these people are saying to you, so Shaykh bin Baaz, he made dua, he said, read their book. Yeah, this was before. But before Shaykh bin Baaz died, rahimahullah, in Ta'if, a year or two before he died, Shaykh bin Baaz was asked about Ikhwan al-Muslimin and Jamaat al-Tabligh. What they said to him, is Jamaat al-Tabligh and Ikhwan al-Muslimin from the 72 sects of dalala, of misguidance? He said, yes. They are from the misguided sects about which the Prophet ﷺ said, Kulluha fin nar illa wahida. All of them into the fire except for one. That's what he said. So why don't they tell you that one? So what was the watershed? The first Gulf War. After the first Gulf War, you see all of these books coming out against Ikhwan al-Muslimin, Sayyid Qutb, Mawdudi, all of the fatwa of the Kibar ulama, Lajnatu Da'ima, everyone. And from Ikhwan al-Muslimin came Al-Qaeda. And from that came ISIS, Daesh. It is a conveyor belt to extremism.